Sophie, this is a very different situation. Here we are at the Smart Energy Council conference in Sydney. I mean, normally we're doing this remotely with cameras off, and we're in a fishbowl, I think, in the middle of the
Yeah.
floor,
One does feel like a guppy.
like a guppy. There seems to be a lot of people here. There's a lot of booze. There's a lot of excitement about behind the meter energy here. I mean, storage is a big thing.
It is a big thing, and it's been, it's been a big thing for a while now, but I think the expectation now is that it's gonna go to the next level, and that will be helped along with a rebate if it indeed happens.
Yeah. Now you had the fun of spending last weekend reporting and listening in on the new battery storage initiative from the federal government,
Yeah.
and listening to a webinar with the Smart Energy Council and the Federal Energy Minister, Chris Bowen. Everyone seems to be pretty pleased with what they've been offered.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of hard work has gone into it, a lot of listening, a lot of, making sure, I think, the same mistakes that have been made with state subsidies, that are sort of usually unintended. No one wants to, hamstring the industry they're trying to help, but that has happened in a few cases. That valley of death between the time when you announce the rebate and when it kicks in can be a serious pain for businesses. But yeah, they've tried to do everything they can to avoid that, to listen to what would be best, what would be easiest. I think using the SRES, the existing rooftop solar scheme, is really important because that means it's a known entity, um, no new paperwork. I think that's a huge
Well,
thing
there are
for
probably a
business.
few little things, but anyway. But I mean, it's a progression. So yes, yeah. And it's interesting too that the government, so they're going to spend $2.3 billion, and they're going to be buying the certificates. So
Yeah.
the strategy behind that's actually quite important, because so it just means that there will be no accusation that costs are being thrust
Yeah.
upon other consumers. And in fact, all the savings will be shared amongst everyone, because there will be definite savings from having more batteries on the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. And what Chris Bowen said today was they just wanted to make extra sure there was no pressure anywhere put on electricity prices at all from this policy. It's just a good news for prices policy, in that, yeah, it'll help the people who get the rebate, but yeah, as you said, push down prices across the grid.
Yeah, he was in a pretty buoyant mood today in
It
his
was.
jeans and his red T-shirt with his cheaper solar thing, and sort of throwing out there against the coalition. He had a couple of wonderful turns of phrases about their gas policy. But what's the mood? You did a bit of a walk around with some of the battery storage installers here. What's the mood?
Look, the mood is hopeful, I guess. It's going to be a huge thing, if this comes into play. Presumably it'll be a huge boost to sales for a lot of people and to business. So I guess they're in a bit of a holding pattern at the moment. This big thing is being dangled.
And there's an election on. We don't yet
Yep.
know the result. So
We do not. And as much as we'd love to be able to call it, we cannot. Anything could happen as America will.
because everything has happened so far in the last couple of elections, and we get a bit wary about making any sort of predictions. But I guess the tea leaves are looking slightly positive at the moment. But as you sort of say, anything can happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of speculation about. So basically, what this battery rebate will do will actually sort of reduce the price by around about a third, as I understand it. So a $15,000 battery becomes a $10,000 battery, a $5,000 battery becomes a $3,500 or something battery, and things like that. It's been interesting because we've heard so much about battery cell prices coming down over the last year, about 30 or 40%, depending on who you believe. But we haven't actually seen that reduction in retail prices for batteries. So that's kind of been, I don't know why that is. Maybe but maybe there might be more competition now, or something.
No, and
Who
and
knows?
maybe it's a scale issue too, because I guess the bigger the big project, they can cut the costs kind of across the balance of plant and all of that stuff. But these smaller batteries, maybe the cost is baked in a bit more from a while.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It no doubt, if it comes in and demand rises, then prices will start to fall.
Well, we saw that with the original Ezra scheme
Yeah.
in solar. So then we knew that, solar prices had fallen. They're expected to fall further. You get a policy which supports more investment and more product, and then prices just fall
Yeah.
even further. So that it could be a double benefit then.
absolutely. And of course, if there's a rebate, it takes the pressure off the need for that to happen so quickly. Because everyone's been waiting for that to happen. And a lot of people waiting for sort of the signs from the universe that now's the time to invest. So this will be the sign. And then prices should start coming down.
Yeah. It's only the first day that we're recording this rather than the second day, but have you heard anything else that's non-battery specific?
Non-battery, no.
The Prime Minister Palau came out with an interesting
Oh, he did.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
That was an incredible, I thought, a really incredible speech. Just reminding us of the reality of climate change for some of our Pacific Island neighbours. And I like the fact that he referred to Australia as the oldest sibling, the big brother or sister, and that we have a serious role to play there. And also I love the way he described the COP, because Dutton's come out and said that they won't necessarily, well, they probably won't support the COP happening here, and it's all a bit.
That's the United Nations Conference of Parties,
Yes,
the big
that's
climate
right.
conference, which is Australia would like to hold in 2026. Well, at least one side of politics in Australia would like to hold in 2026, but yes.
in partnership with the Pacific Island nations. So it's been a big deal, and I think it's been dismissed on the right as a waste of money and time, perhaps. But the way the president of Palau put it is that it's a huge trade show. It's the biggest green trade show. Aside from things like the Olympics, it's one of the biggest ways to boost the industry and to I think he said something like a 2-to-1 return on investment as far as the kind of. So aside from being a very important political and climate action move, showing our support for the Pacific Islands.
Rather than making jokes about sort of water tipping over.
mapping.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And it'd be an important time for the Pacific Islands too if it does happen, because I do remember going back to the Copenhagen Climate Conference, the one that ended up in sort of a bit of a mess. And they had this massive globe in the sort of the main auditorium, and had every country in the world except they didn't have the Pacific Islands.
No.
And so the AOSIS, which is the Association of sort of Small Island States, looked at that and just thought, well, they've already wiped us out. It was just such a shocking message.
Yeah, that is super unfortunate.
Sometimes you expect better of Denmark, but anyway, it wasn't to be. Although I have actually heard a few whispers around the place that while Labor is very keen to host the climate conference, there are some people like Chris Bowen are very keen. There's some who are sort of a bit reticent about whether it might actually highlight the fact that we're one of the world's biggest fossil fuel exporters, and maybe that might become a focus of scrutiny. But
well, that was also mentioned in the speech. It's like, no, you're also the biggest polluter. So
clean up your act.
we're not going to sweep that under the rug either. So I think it would have we'd have to have face a few facts, but we should be facing those facts.
Well, circling back
Anyway.
to rooftop solar and battery storage, that's actually going to help us transition. I think Penny Sharp was also talking today about the battery storage incentive and that sort of growth in rooftop solar, and this is enabling a transition quicker than they had imagined. So it's not just about building big wind, big solar and transmission lines. It's also about what happens behind the meter in people's homes, the fact that consumers will have the power, and just be major players in the grid.
That's right.
So long as we can actually sort of modify and adapt the rules, that they are also rewarded for their efforts and their
That would be a
investments
big
and
piece
things.
of the
Big
puzzle.
piece of the puzzle.
But I do like that message of putting all this amazing solar that we've installed on rooftops to work, like, really getting the most out of it, because already it's an amazing success story, but there's another level we can take it. So
Yeah, there's a nice line. I've just done an interview for one of our other podcasts with the Chief Operating Officer of Essential Energy, talking about their new vehicle, the Grid trial, and the fact that they've just sort of finalised the first technology with one of the first EVs, and he was just talking about the network, and it used to be a place where electrons went to die, but now they can actually go. Now they can actually be absorbed and used and sort of thrive and be put back into the grid for useful purposes. So
my
I
goodness.
thought that was quite a nice little touch anyway. But anyway,
It is.
On that, Sophie, we'll get back to our main program, and it's been great catching up in person
It has in the fishbowl.
in the fishbowl. I think our producers might force us to do this again, but I'm sure we're going to be very happy about that. So anyway, thanks for joining us.